joined by Matt Hulland. Matt is the Resource and Recovery Manager at Exeter City Council, and also a keen and very active environmentalist, approaching sustainability with the kind of principles of circularity in mind. Matt has a huge body of knowledge and experience in waste minimisation and resource management, and as such has a really in-depth kind of understanding of that really critical aspect of circularity. So by definition, circularity requires all of the parts of the process to be really well understood. And I think one of the parts that is probably less understood by most is that sort of recapturing of material and recycling. So that's why it's really interesting to have a conversation with Matt today in the context of World Circular Week, so we can all start to learn a little bit more about how all of the pieces fit together. So hi Matt, it's a real pleasure to talk to you this morning. Awesome. Thanks again for your time joining us. And I guess if we could start with maybe you giving us a bit of an overview of your current role at Exeter City Council.
Yeah, my role at Exeter City Council is as Resource Recovery Manager. So I'm primarily responsible for overseeing the operation of our material reclamation facility, which is where we process, sort and ready all of the recyclables for sale on the commodity markets. I'm also responsible for finding solutions for waste through partnerships, contracts, collaboration. And from this work, we've created several local, regional, national, even world first projects around circularity, where we've looked at keeping waste in the economy and wherever possible created products by working with partners. I love my role. I like the fact that it allows me to think out the box. The organisation are very accommodating, very innovative. I get to meet many passionate activists who have shared common goals of improving our environment and the beautiful peninsula that we live on.
Yeah, Exeter, I believe, have this sustainable city goal, and I would imagine that you guys play a huge part in that process. So do you have a kind of a plan that you guys are working to, what the key steps are towards that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a commitment to be carbon neutral by 2030. So we have 4 pillars really. We have energy, mobility, sustainability and capability. Under the sustainable part of the just teasing out that particular pillar, we have some key directives. We aspire to ensure that we manage our waste efficiently, that we build in those regenerative design principles into our waste management, how we manage, how we reduce our waste, but also how we it's not just about reducing landfill or looking at environmental pollution, plastics in our oceans. We need to affect that behavior change. So by thinking differently about what we throw away, what our purchasing habits are, we can generate many benefits to the city. We want to build a culture where that regenerative design is recognised, that we all have a responsibility to leave this planet in a better state than we found it. So we're looking at how we deliver this. So through direct action, we're going to work with businesses to reduce waste, to look at their business model where residual business waste can be used to support the circular economy, such as energy recovery, but by providing source material for industries such as construction as well. We're looking to halve the capita of food waste in retail and consumer level by again encouraging sustainable food consumption. Looking at the purchasing habits and thus reducing production.
On the capturing of business waste and repurposing that as and using it as a source, a material stream, I presume for a local business. Which one comes first? Are you identifying a need, or are you sort of identifying the waste stream and then looking for a need for that?
So I think it's we're moving into an era now where we offer waste management services, but rather than just offering that typical waste management contractor position in the market, we're looking to support the business and work in partnership more than a contractor. So looking at the business individual needs, looking at what they generate as waste, looking at what they purchase that may lead to that waste production, how they can be a more green business. Ultimately, I think if we're left with a residual waste, it's how we can recover the energy from that. But it's more about looking at their business model in a more holistic approach to say, you know, do you need to generate that waste in the first place? Looking at that waste, what can we recycle? How can we get that into a mainstream supply chain?
And I would imagine from your long career that collaboration has been a really big part of what you've been working on, and we see it as obviously fundamental to how all those pieces of the puzzle commit together. So from your experience, what is it, what can make collaboration work really well, and maybe what can be the difficulties?
I think collaboration's vital, not just locally but regionally, nationally, across the sectors. I think within the waste industry, we need to harness this innovation and this adopt a best practice principle that's not wholly led financially, that's led through true circular economy principles, understanding other supply chain stakeholder issues, and again finding and use the word holistic again, finding that holistic viable solution that we achieve these common goals. But if where I think for the business environment, I think this is the benefit of working for a local authority. With the business environment, we need to enable, we need to support, we need to be honest, transparent, and offer those solutions. We're doing a lot of work with civic or government-backed institutions. So we work with the university, we offer services to the college, we work with the Met Office. So again, it fits in with the strategy. We need to lead, again, being a local authority, we need to inspire, we need to be accountable for our position of influence in our local and regional society. We need to display those values, and I think that's key. We need to display those values that adopt those circular economy, regenerative principles. You know, everybody has a part to play in this now. You know, we live in a world of change, constant change. In a climate emergency, we've all got a part to play in this, from an individual to business to communities, everything.
What are the challenges from your kind of view on the process?
So from a circular economy perspective, I think that the challenges are it's having an understanding of what the supply chains are and finding those solutions that can be formed from business models, not from that support that investment that's needed, rather than grants and funding, where we see a lot of innovation that has to be supported through grants and funding. But we need a shift to find business models that support that approach as well, and this can be difficult. Especially when you're dealing with individuals or particularly businesses that are bottom line driven, either out of necessity or profit gain, just to say cynical. Entry into standard supply chains, I think, rather than creating bespoke cottage supply chains where you can have some great local innovation and product design, but you need to be supported by the standard supply chains. Right. So again, that requires investment, time, infrastructure to enable those waste products to be accepted and reinvented as other goods. And I think what's key as well is education and acceptance. And I think this is the difficulty. I think from a consumer perspective, we need almost a paradigm shift to accept more practical and functional goods, as opposed to aesthetically pleasing goods.
That's such a key part of it, the consumer perception, but also the supply chain is really interesting. Are there examples of waste streams that have made it to standard supply chains? Now, is there one material that has actually kind of done that?
Yeah, I think, you know, in regards to the material that we deal with, we've spent a lot of time handling domestic plastics that people throw away from the doorstep. So plastic milk bottles, they enter back into the general supply chain, and because we separate them here and sell that commodity as a specific milk bottle, it makes its way back to being a milk bottle.
That's very cool.
Clear bottles back to clear bottles.
Yeah.
The standards are there: paper to paper, card to card, and metal back to metal. You know, aluminium tins to aluminium tins, and steel cans back to food tins. I think design and innovation lends itself in today's today's issues. I think there's a particular focus around plastics. I think that's where we still need to focus a lot of innovation, a lot of regenerative design still on plastics. They're not all of the plastics find their way to the general supply chain, and I think this is where we're still teasing out those some of those areas that we've worked in, such as marine plastics and other commercial plastics that may not necessarily end up with a robust supply chain at the end of it, trying to drive that awareness to find these solutions. So I think plastics is still the key area to move forward.
Yeah, and I guess there will always be the need for those kind of more cottage supply chains or kind of case study supply chains that I guess prove the principle of it, and then you kind of go from there to follow in footsteps of the others. So on that, do you have some kind of examples, like the projects that you've worked on? Are there ones that you'd like to specifically kind of talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. I think on a one of the largest areas we're working with is in marine and environmental plastic pollution, supporting ports, harbours, the fishing industry, beach clean groups, communities, all kinds of different things like that. You know, you guys are well aware of the partnership with Surfers Against Sewage that we're in. And working closely with those activists. You know, you give up some space, your site, to get those nets bulked where we can come and collect them and look at getting those fishing nets back into the economy. So we've made goods, kayaks, bodyboards, bins, shamelessly advertising the marine hand plane that we produce. That's a portion of the money goes to Sea Shepherd for their activism around our coastlines, I should say. So yeah, we've been supporting marine plastic regeneration through the net regeneration scheme with Odyssey Innovation since 2017. That has such a reach on our peninsula. The first devolved government to adopt our best practice approach through Odyssey Innovation is the Welsh Government. So there's infrastructure all the way around the Welsh coastline now, where we get we harness the motivation of the ports and harbours to keep the plastics out of the seas. That fits more into trying to keep to find those supply chain routes, the general supply chain routes. This is a material that's really difficult. It's ruining our environment, and how do we keep that in the economy? So we've proved that we can put that into a supply chain, and we've generated products from those. Which are easily seen on the odysseyyinnovation.com website, I should say. Locally, we've worked with a fabulous company, Circular&Co, where we've looked at other areas, harnessing the supporter-owned, just as an example, as a supporter-owned football club, Exeter City Football Club, supporter-owned. They have a charity community trust. The reach in our communities is huge. Especially through COVID, supporting mental health and well-being. The work they do is incredible, but they were faced with some plastic waste, some seats that they wanted to see how they could look at that waste plastic. And working with Circular&Co, we've been able to prove that we can keep it in the economy. And products can be created that could possibly have a retail value to the club. It's a supporter-owned club, so the money goes back into the trust. So every penny helps, and that supports projects across our city. we work. There's lots. We work with J&A Young. We all our bags, and we're one of the only local authorities in the country that collects soft films from the curbside. So all the wrappers and the carrier bags and bags for life that are redundant anymore, we take them back. We supply them to a company in the UK that turns them back into litter sacks and recycling sacks. So we then purchase those sacks back, and they get filled with the recycling in the city, in our recycling bins. They come back, we start again, and so you have a true circular approach. And we're the only authority that does that. We're the only English authority in this closed loop. But it's taking those principles of collaboration, possibly foregoing a bit of income, to be able to find this benchmark in this best practice. But it takes acceptance of all stakeholders that there's a part to play, and how can we drive this forward so everybody has a position around the table in driving this.
Is there a silver bullet or something that fundamentally might change people's attitudes or people's adoption of the circular economy? Is there anything from your perspective that could be really, really powerful? Tough question.
I know, and I think some of the conversations we've had recently that when we've been asked to sort of blue sky what would make a change. I think a move to a more altruistic society, if that's possible, one that's not driven by capitalism. So perhaps let's take money out of the equation. If we removed money, I think you'd remove the limit of the availability of money. We'd increase society's output. People may move to a more public interest rather than a private one, and where common goals, societal values, we're driven that way out of necessity rather than gain. I think so. We have a collective gain as opposed to an individual gain, and I think what would come from that is the environmental impact, stress-free existence. I think we all want that in today's world. Yeah. And I think we need to be more appreciative of what we have, rather than what we're trying to attain.
If we can crystallize the good energy in the world, we've got lots to look forward to. Amazing. Thank you so much, Matt, for your time. I really appreciate it, as does Circular&Co and the rest of the circular economy community. Appreciate your efforts, and we look forward